The urgency and activity and real movement in the administration of vaccines across the country. And we had a conversation with the minister, with the deputy president, with the executives of Aspen, and indeed the minister also took it forward with the executives of Johnson & Johnson. And we said, this Aspen here belongs to us as South Africans, and it is making life-saving vaccines, and we as South Africa must be in pole position to be able to get the vaccines that are manufactured here. But we also said we wanted the vaccines to be also available to the rest of the continent with immediate effect. With immediate effect. And the minister and I also intervened, and the DP kind of put quite a bit of push on the Johnson & Johnson people and said, we need you to finalize the full commitment to South Africa and to the rest of the continent. And we are pleased with the outcome of that intervention, an intervention that has led to Johnson & Johnson finally saying yes and confirming and signing, I think as late as yesterday, that they will make 220 million vaccines for the entire continent of Africa for starters, and we anticipate that it will build up to even 400 million. And that for South Africa, we will have the 30 million vaccines. But I then impressed upon them that I want them now. I don't want them much later than now. And we are here, therefore, to come and fetch our vaccines. That's what we have come here for. Yes, I've been here before, but this time round, I've come to fetch our vaccines. And as we were going around, Chairman Dlamini, the chairman of the company, I was keeping my eyes on him and saying, you better go and report to the board that we're here to fetch our vaccines. We're very pleased with what we have seen here and the commitment that has been made. And we'll talk about that even much later, even possibly tomorrow, as we tell the rest of our people. We're very pleased with what we've seen. The world-class facility that is here is just in another league. And I'd like to congratulate Aspen for having a world-class facility to manufacture the vaccines for our country, for our continent, and indeed, yes, we're prepared to share them with the world as well. It is fantastic. It is a fantastic facility, but I was also particularly pleased with the people who work here. The people who work here, apart from the machines, there are lots of machines here, but the people who work here are knowledgeable, they know their craft, they are scientists, they are pharmacists, they are engineers, and they are well led by Sipiwe Ntombela, who, as I said, is going to be a PhD candidate or a graduate soon. And we are also pleased, Premier, that the facility is here in the Eastern Cape. The Eastern Cape, where we want to continue creating jobs. And the Eastern Cape, because there's another facility in East London, Eastern Cape is really becoming an important, not only manufacturing, but also investment base for us. Stavros did say that at our investment conference, Aspen did commit to investing 3 billion rand. And I'd like to congratulate you. You have lived up to your promise of investing 3 billion rand, and thank you very much. But I'm also here for more. So great congratulations to our province. Clearly, job creation is one of the key objectives that we have for this province. And I'm glad that our mayor being here also confirms that the city wants to improve the infrastructure. It wants to ensure that we create a conducive environment for investments to happen. The Premier is working very hard in terms of their plans. And the mayor, I'm pleased to hear that they are also doing exactly the same. Now, the vaccines that will be available from this sport are going to enhance our rollout campaign and effort. Minister Mkhize and the DP, through the Interministerial Committee, ensuring that indeed our rollout of vaccines program works extremely well. And one of the reasons why the DP is here is to make sure that we really button down and he's aware of all, even the manufacturing processes that go into the rollout of the vaccines. Premier, I'm particularly happy to hear that the Eastern Cape is ready for the rollout with MEC of Health, MEF, to ensure that the province does not have any challenges when it comes to rollout. The rural areas, the town areas, the townships must all be well covered when it comes to rollout. Now, the J&J vaccine is going to be really beneficial to us because it's a one-shot vaccine. And that is precisely what we are going to need in the outlying areas, in the rural areas, also in our townships. So for us, that is very important. I was very pleased to hear from Strive Masiyiwa, who we appointed when we were chair of the African Union to the Africa Vaccine Acquisition Task Team, to hear him say that they had signed the agreement with Johnson & Johnson last night. Now, that is going to give a huge boost to our continent, and when the COVAX facility comes into play, we are going to have even more vaccines for the entire continent. Now, this is important for us as Africans, that as we deal with this pandemic that has engulfed the whole world, we are not left behind. With previous vaccines, previous pandemics rather, Africa was often left behind. And in some cases, we were left maybe many years behind, and in one case, we were even left 10 years behind. This time around, we are really going to be up there with your more developed economies when it comes to the rollout of vaccines. And it is for this reason that we are also calling for an end of vaccine nationalism, because the more developed economies have hogged vaccines, and we are continuing to call on them to release the vaccines for your more developing economy countries, and especially on the African continent. And for that reason, we say vaccine apartheid must come to an end. Because in the end, in the whole world, no one is safe until everyone is safe. So all of us must be treated equally across the world, and vaccines must be treated as a public good, available at affordable prices right across the board. And it is also for this reason that we are calling for the World Trade Organization to waive its restrictions on enabling countries that can manufacture vaccines to be able to do so. South Africa and India and a number of other countries have been calling on the World Trade Organization to relax these waivers that they have and the vaccines, or to grant us the waivers. So for us to be here today has really been very inspiring, very uplifting visit, because now we know where the vaccines are made, We've come here to confirm that Johnson & Johnson, through Aspen, is going to make all these vaccines available to us. So, Premier, your province, and Mayor, your city here, your metro, is going to be a life-saving province and a life-saving metro to the entire country and indeed to the whole continent. And we thank you for that. So we are really pleased that we've had this opportunity of seeing for ourselves how well this facility operates. And when I asked the question, how do we stand in relation to other facilities like this in the world? I was told that we are up there with the best. But Minister Mkhize said, in fact, we set the standard. We are really up there setting the standard with the rest of the world. So it's pleasing to know that out of South Africa, we are going to be able to make vaccines that will be distributed not only to our country, but also to the rest of the continent. So the process of rollout then is going to gain momentum because, as we heard, the vaccines from Johnson & Johnson are going to start really rolling out in a few days because it is from April. So from April, we're going to see a change, a sea change really, in the rollout of vaccines throughout the country. We will go through the first phase, and we've identified that all our health workers will go, frontline workers will go through the first phase, and the second phase is going to be another group of people. I think from here on, we are going to catch up lost time. The momentum is going to pick up, and we should be able to meet the targets that we've spoke about. So I'd like to thank you, Mr. Saad, for allowing us to come here, Premier, for allowing us to come here. This is the beginning of a new phase, an era in the rollout of the vaccines and saving the lives of our people. So thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you. Want me to stay here?
Yeah, you can sit down and take the questions. Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues in the media, we're going to allow only 5 questions. And these are the questions that will be directed solely to the President. And the questions that will be directed to Aspen, the executives of Aspen will remain answering those. But now we're going to take only questions directed to the President. Can I see the raise of hands? I'm seeing 2 hands. 3. So, Governor, 1, 2, 3. It's 3 hands that I'm seeing. I'm closing on 3 hands. Thank you. Go ahead, start.
Yes.
Thank you so much, President Scobin. President Scobin, it's from PNCA. How many of the vaccines that are being made here that are in the production will be given to South Africans, and how many will be for export? I mean, while you were in there, you were explaining, the official explained the price per dose, and that there were a number of doses in the vials. Could you just clear up what that price is? Is that the price that we as South Africa are buying it for, or is that the price that it will be for once it's exported?
Thank you. Number 2.
My name is Malungelo Boy from Newsroom Africa. Mr. President, your government has come under criticism of late, especially from political parties and also...
Malungelo, can you increase the volume?
Okay. My name is Malungelo Boy from Newsroom Africa. Mr. President, your government has come under criticism of late, and also not only from political parties, but also from some South Africans over the slow pace of inoculation in this country. What would you say to people who say government has failed in its vaccination program? The second question is, when exactly are we going to see this facility producing those vaccines? I know you've spoken about April. Is it at the beginning of April or at the end of April? Thank you.
Malungelo, that question should be directed to Aspen. I'd like Aspen to respond to that one. So I'll take the other last question. There's the lady there.
Afternoon, Mr. President. Noma Zimangose from the Herald. I just wanted to ask, I'm not sure if you've seen the videos circulating, particularly from the metro this weekend, where we had large gatherings, parties. So I just wanted to ask if we can expect stricter restrictions ahead of Easter weekend.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's over to you. There are two questions. The question of Malungelo will be responded to by Aspen because it's the details that the executives will then deal with. Thank you, over to you, Mr. President.
Well, the first question was how many will we get? We have confirmed and have signed that we are going to be getting initially 30 million vaccines out of this facility, and 220 million will be vaccines that will be spread throughout the continent. So here, 30 million, and as you well know, we've got a multi-supplier system of acquiring vaccines. Johnson & Johnson is one of those that we are buying vaccines from, and there are a number of others. And we continue to negotiate with a number of suppliers. Minister of Health and his officials, together with Finance, continue to be seized with that whole process. And there are many others, and Minister of Health, if you care, will be able to clarify all that. And the pricing is also an affordable price because we are not overpaying, and it is part of the agreement process that we are involved in with Johnson & Johnson and a number of other suppliers. What we have tended to focus on is to acquire vaccines, and there's great competition around the world about acquiring vaccines, and we have focused more on saying we've got to acquire vaccines as quickly as possible so that we can save our people's lives. Malungelo says that there's criticism against government for the slow pace of the rollout. The slow pace, which I spoke about initially, in saying that our coming here is going to add impetus to the process of rolling out. The slow pace has been given rise to by the availability of vaccines. You will remember that we acquired vaccines initially from India, and through scientific processes we found that they were not efficient or efficacious for the variant that we have. And we had then to source other vaccines, and we used the Johnson & Johnson vaccines that were used in the trial process. And we were the very first, I guess, in the world to use the Johnson & Johnson vaccines, and they were used, and they are being used for the vaccination of our frontline workers. And in the process, we are acquiring more and more vaccines. So availability is a challenge that all countries in the world are going through. You go to Europe, you'll hear that they've got a challenge of availability. Japan has started much later as like the third largest economy in the world in vaccination because availability also for them was a challenge. A number of African countries had thought that they would start earlier, but availability has been a major challenge. So we need to look at the issue of availability and look at the efforts that we are now embarking upon and making. And part of the reason why we have come here is to ensure that we speed up the process of the availability of our vaccines. And that is why we had to confirm that we are going to get our 30 million vaccines from Johnson & Johnson. The Minister will be able to clarify that our negotiations with others are at an advanced stage, and in fact we've confirmed with others we're waiting for the Pfizer vaccines to also be delivered. So we are on an ongoing basis accumulating more and more vaccines. And in terms of the phases, we are still in the first phase. People tend to think that we have lost time. We've lost a little bit of time, but we're still on target in terms of our phase, and we're now going to speed up the whole process of getting these vaccines. So losing a little bit of time does not mean, in my book, that government is failing. Government has been committed, absolutely committed, to saving the lives of our people and making all efforts. And if you care to know, we have not been sleeping on the job. And if you look into the eyes of the minister and also the DP, you'll find that there are red specks in their eyes because they don't sleep. They're making sure that indeed we work very hard to get those vaccines. So you wanted to know when Aspen will be able to answer that, because the production line, we saw the production line, we saw how the vaccines are now being produced and packaged. We saw that for ourselves, which is precisely what we wanted to see. So we've seen that production has commenced, and it's going to start picking up much more. I had wanted to come a lot earlier. I'm rather glad I came now, when they are now in the real action of producing the vaccines. So pace is picking up, and we will be able in days, because the commitment and the agreement says in April they must be able to start giving us the various batches. And because production of the 30 million does not happen in one day, it's going to happen sequentially, and they are going to be delivering as and when that happens. Restrictions in the light of the fear that there might be a third wave, and the light of the holidays that we are going into, that is going to be finalized by the National Coronavirus Command Council, which meets tomorrow, and we should be able to also discuss the matter with our provinces. Our premier here participates in that, and our mayor also participates. So they will be able to give us the lay of the land in the province and tell us how we are all behaving here in the Eastern Cape and in Gqeberha in relation to whether we are observing the various protocols or not. And if we find that our people are not really observing the protocols, and there's a fear and a concern that there could be a further surge, then we will have to re-examine our position and say, do we need further restrictions? The restrictions that we've come up with have helped to curb the continuing growth and the rise of the infections. But having said that, the matter is going to be discussed tomorrow by the National Coronavirus Council, and we will get a report from the Eastern Cape here and get reports from other provinces, and then a decision will be taken and an announcement will then be made. So thank you very much. It's been wonderful being here, and thank you for all your questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. And the question that is directed to Aspen will be responded to when the President and the entourage has left, because they are behind time. Thank you. Over to you, Strauss.
Minister, thank you very much. We have reached the final agenda item now. The President has spoken, so all that remains to be done is a final vote of thanks from Stephen Saad. And President, I've been asked for 2 photo opportunities, if you'll indulge us. With yourself, we have the Deputy President, who is also the Chair of the IMC, the Interministerial Committee on COVID. So immediately after Stephen has spoken, if I can invite the President and the Deputy President for a photo, and then there's one final photo after that, which will involve the 2 ministers, Kuseni, Dlamini, Stephen as well. Thank you. Steve, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, everyone in government. If anyone questioned commitment, commitment is here in front of us. Such a large delegation, such a high-powered delegation, there cannot be anything more important than providing vaccines within our country. A special thank you to Johnson & Johnson. They were the company that, you know, they are a company that have truly lived to the word in terms of equitable access. It's easy to talk about, and everyone talks, you know, developing. But Johnson & Johnson have not only been unstinting in sharing tech transfer with us, but they didn't need any arm twisting. They've made these commitments early on in the process, and they are commitment. They can't do more than commit such big volumes in production to Africa. So thank you very much to J&J. I think my great vote of thanks goes to the people at this facility and our technology teams. This is the same facility and the same people that every time there's a pandemic in Africa and you look somewhere, this is the facility that stands tall. When we needed ARVs, we were first in the world, ahead of any other country, to produce that FDA-approved generic vaccine. So well done, thank you. And when we needed you most and we struggled and we battled to procure vaccines, you guys beat everybody to get to the front of the queue, beat all the timelines. And to you and the J&J team that helped, I can thank you. As a country, we all owe you a debt of gratitude. You really are heroes to all of us, and thank you for all you have done to make South Africa, Africa, and the rest of the world a safer place. Thank you so much to all of you. Thank you.
Can I please invite the President and the Deputy President for the next photo? Thank you.
Where do you want us to stand?
Can you come up here, please?
Stand with you? Okay.
I just get told.
Yeah, me too. You can't move it. It's glued.